You guys have liked my balls in the past, so I'm here to update you guys with my current Ball Lightning build here for the last month of the season. So if you're looking to get back in before the season is over, this is definitely going to be the build for you. The damage is crazy. Also, the survivability is crazy too. And it's overall a lot of fun to play. So we're going to break down everything that you guys are going to need for the setup. I'm not the biggest fan of the Abattoir of Zir, so this build isn't specialized into it. But even with this setup, you can run like tier 12s and anywhere around there, depending on the level of your glyph. Mine's only like level 6 or 7 or something like that. So I'm chilling around like the 10 to 12 range, depending on the run. But overall, if you guys want to get some levels on there, this is going to work great. Otherwise, for any sort of bosses, Duriel, Lilith, all that good stuff, and tier 100 dungeons, you guys are going to be golden with this build. But really quick, before we jumped into this video, I wanted to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Dungeon Hunter 6. Dungeon Hunter 6 is a free-to-play MMO RPG on mobile with a unique hero collector feature in a stunning fantasy style. If you like builds, this game has a ton of various builds and skills to utilize as you fight big bosses. And the best part is it's absolutely free to play, so download it now using the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen if you're viewing on a PC. Dungeon Hunter 6 delivers a unique and immersive multiplayer experience on your mobile device. You can enjoy smooth, fast-paced 3D gameplay wherever you are. Whether you want to partake in guild battles or epic boss raids with your friends, or enjoy casually farming and other relaxing game modes, Dungeon Hunter 6 has whatever you need. Dungeon Hunter 6 also features a unique gacha mechanism where you can actually loot and ride the bosses and summon up to 3 of them on the battlefield with you. You can even shapeshift into them to harness their ultimate power. Currently, there's 6 classes and over 100 uniquely designed bosses to conquer and explore, and right now you can check out the latest class, Shaman, just released for the holiday season. There are a variety of skills to create unique builds and a way to trade items via the auction system. So go down to the link in the description or scan my QR code to download the game for free on both Android and iOS. Doing so will get you a special starter pack worth $50, giving you 10 summoning scrolls, 1 SSR Lieutenant Demonic Wolf, and 1 accessory pack. But with all that fun stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right into this build video. And just a reminder, if you guys do like my balls, make sure you are subscribed to the channel for more Diablo videos here coming shortly with the new season coming. As always, I like to start off with my skills for the build first. So first off, we're going to be using Flame Shield. This is going to allow us to apply burn in some scenarios, mainly when we're in the Abattoir of Zir. Also, obviously, the immunity and mana cost reduction is really good out of it. And then teleports. That's going to be good now because we're actually using the raiment with this setup, so we can get to those groupings and those stuns with it. So that's very nice. Ice armor, just so we can get some barrier and keep our enchantments active, our aspects active a little bit more often. And then unstable currents as our ultimate. And then we're going to be grabbing ice blades. This is going to allow us to proc an extra Tal Rasha and one of our glyph damage boosts, so that's gonna be super nice. Also, the cooldowns out of this, once you guys are in Abattoir of Zir, are actually noticeable, which is really nice. So it's gonna allow you guys to spam more of your skills. Otherwise, our main skill is going to be Ball Lightning. Obviously, the damage is just cracked. So that's gonna be our skill setup for our enchantments. We're gonna be using the Firebolt enchantment if you guys are not in the Abattoir of Zir. If you are in the Abattoir of Zir, you are going to be running the Frostbolt as your enchantment. This way you guys can freeze the enemies. So essentially what we're going to be doing in the Zir is grouping enemies with our raiment teleports, freezing them with the Frostbolt, and then we're going to be using the Shatter Key passive with that setup in the Zir. And that way you guys can just nuke the whole groups of enemies that you end up pulling together. Otherwise, our second enchantment that's going to be there all the time is going to be Chain Lightning, since we are going to be using the Selig, and this is going to allow us to maintain our mana at full at all times and essentially never die. Now, the actual skill tree itself in the basic skills, we're going to do 1 point into Firebolt and 1 point into Frostbolt, so we can freely swap between those as our enchantments. Otherwise, we're going to be grabbing Chain Lightning and Destructive Chain Lightning for it to form the crackling energies and maintain that mana. Otherwise, grabbing a point in Devastation so we can get to Elemental Dominance and get that extra damage. We are going pretty defensive in a lot of aspects in this build, so every little bit of extra damage we can get is very helpful. Otherwise, Mystical Flame Shield for the mana cost reduction. Teleports over here into Shimmering Teleport for the more damage reduction. We're going to be doing 1 point into ice armor. We really don't need any more. If you want to put a point into enhanced, you can. Otherwise, 1 point into elemental attunement so we can get some defensive skills on reset a lot more often. Otherwise, we're going to max out this whole passive little tree here with protection, align the elements, and mana shield. And then we're going to be grabbing ice blades and summoned ice blades, so its cooldowns that it applies can apply to your other skills. Otherwise, lightning spear, this is going to be for our ultimate, and that way we can stun enemies around us. Going to make us a lot more tanky within our ultimate. Also, if you guys want, you can drop ice blades at times and run lightning spear on your actual skill bar, but I never really do that anymore. This is mainly just for our ultimate. Otherwise, as we move down here, we're going to be grabbing Devouring Blaze, obviously 1 point into Inner Flames to get there. That's going to be a big damage boost for us. Maxing out Ball Lightning and then Wizard's Ball Lightning so we get those crackling energies. And then Invigorating Conduit. This is why we're getting so much mana sustain out of those crackling energies and why we want to make so many. Otherwise, 1 point into Static Discharge so we can get down to it. And then down here, we're going to be grabbing Unstable Currents and then just do Prime Unstable Currents. You don't need the pulsing faster and the crackling energy doesn't cost any charges. That part really doesn't matter. It's always going to be full and its damage output really isn't that great. So we don't really care about it attacking faster. Otherwise, Electrocution, so we can make the enemies deal less damage. 1 point into Coursing Currents so we can get down to that. And then since we are going to be using Shatter in the Zir stuff, we are going to be grabbing Hoarfrost here, but this is really only going to be active in Zir when we have the Frostbolt enchantment on. Otherwise, if you guys do not plan on doing that whatsoever or don't mind changing every time, you can drop these and then put them into like Conjuration Mastery and something else, or just put like all 4 into Teleport and get a much lower cooldown on there. It's completely up to you what you want to do with those points. Otherwise, for everything else that isn't Zir, I run Esu's Ferocity as our key passive. Otherwise, once I'm in Zir, I put on Shatter. That way we can group them up and nuke the packs. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our gear. I'm just going to go down piece by piece, starting at the armor. So for the helmets, on here is where I do the less damage from crowd control and vulnerable enemies. A lot of things are going to be vulnerable around this because of our Static Surge Paragon board, which we will get to a little bit later. But otherwise, on here, you're really going to want total armor, max mana, and cooldown. You can trade out maximum life for other things. Since we're using the Selig, the maximum life really isn't going to help you out. Otherwise, the raiments over here. One thing you could do with the raiment is actually not upgraded enough, so it goes to +2 glass cannon. I do not have another one to test that out, but if you guys want to give that a go before you fully upgrade it, definitely give that a shot if you feel like you're dying a little bit quick in some certain scenarios in the Zir. But otherwise, on the gloves over here is where I run Conceited, so damage while you have a barrier. I do attack speed, crit chance to restore primary resources, okay. Some intelligence on there. It's completely up to you. There's a couple options in terms of affixes. These are the ones that I currently have, and they do the job pretty well. On my pants is where I put the disobedience aspect. Here I run Ranks of Ball Lightning for a little bit of extra damage. And then the big one is going to be damage reduction while injured. Since we're using the Selig, we can actually weaken ourselves before we go do our activities, just on like some random world enemies, and that way we can have that crazy damage reduction at all times, and that way we don't lose our mana as fast either. So that is an incredibly important part of this. Your pants and your boots are going to have damage reduction while injured on them. That is an absolute must. Otherwise, just fill it in the other passive slots with the other damage reductions or anything else like that. And then on my boots, I like to run movement speed, DR while injured. Like I said, mana cost reduction is really nice because it's going to allow us to trigger our legendary Paragon board a little bit more often. Also, I do have some stat boosts on here. I would like this to be dexterity with a couple of the breakpoints that I'm missing in the Paragon board. And then on these, I like to run while enemies are unstoppable, you deal increased damage to them. That's going to happen a lot in the Zir dungeons, so having that X percent 40% to them is very, very helpful. And then on our wand, I like to run Ball Lightning Orbits You. You can use the dagger, it's completely up to you. It's not really going to make much of a difference either way. Otherwise, all stats, ints would be very good with like vulnerable and mastery. Probably going to be your best bet in terms of passives on there. And then for the focus, I like to run the Storm Swell aspect, so damage to vulnerable while you have a barrier. Here, you can do more DR. Resource generation is a big one because all of the chain lightnings that you're going to be bouncing around and the crackling energies you pick up, all those are going to give you more and more mana per, so that's going to be very helpful for staying alive. Otherwise, cooldown, mana cost reduction on there is going to be very good. And then let's go ahead and take a look at our jewelry. So like I said, the Selig over here, this is going to be our main source of staying alive. This thing is incredibly powerful. And then Tal Rashah's ring, mine really is not very good, but you're going to definitely want to look for a big resource generation roll on here and non-physical. Obviously, the damage for each element too. We are going to have this stacking up to 4 with this build, so that's going to be very helpful. And then the other ring that we're going to be using is going to be each time Chain Lightning bounces, you're going to gain mana here. Resource gen, max mana, crit chance, and then you can do any sort of like damage or anything like that. The last one, there's a lot of flexibility there. For our vampiric powers, these are the 5 that I've ended up settling on. I know there's ways you can like snapshot these or whatever. I have not taken advantage of that at all. So if you guys want to do that in your own games, you can, but nothing that I've done here is dependent on that or used at all. So here I like to run Ravenous, Prey on the Weak, Resilience. This one is very big since we're going to be keeping our health super low all the time with the DR from Injured. There's going to be even more to that. Domination, this is going to be very helpful with the Raiments, and then also as you guys are freezing enemies with and doing shatter stuff, Domination is going to be very helpful. And then Infection, so we can get that poison damage for our Tal Rashah ring. For our Paragon board, I definitely went pretty defensive here just so we could stay alive in a lot of those Zirs. And then also I've grabbed some damage where I could, but on our starting board is where I put Territorial for the DR from close enemies. It's gonna be very helpful. Also damage to close is nice as well. And then I'm just gonna be grabbing non-physical things because these are gonna end up being a multiplicative bonus for us as well. And otherwise, I did grab a little bit of resistance to all elements here to fill in some gaps. And then as we move up, we're going to be going into the Static Surge board here first. And this way we can grab the damage to stun and max mana over here on the right as we move up. And this is where we put the Tears of Blood glyph. And this can allow us to get a ton of extra damage. Like I said, this thing's like level 6 or 7. I think it's 7. Yeah, level 7 right now. And we're getting almost 94% X damage out of here, which is crazy. So that's why I like to run it in this slot. Otherwise, I just grab some lightning resistance, damage is stunned, and all the nodes here. I've basically grabbed every core attribute here. So we're going to be getting the max bonus out of there. Otherwise, like I said, Static Surge is going to be a big way that we're making enemies vulnerable, getting mana back, and sending out those chain lightnings, which is very helpful. So from there is where I actually go to the Elemental Summoner board next. This is the next board I place so I can get more max mana, because more max mana is more survivability for us here in these nodes. And then from there, I have gone into the Enchant Master board. That way we can throw the Elementalist glyph here at the top and grab a more non-physical damage over here and damage to elites over here. And that way we can fill in the damage that we're going to get for our next board. So all these non-physicals are going to be going into our Frigid Fate board, which I placed next. And this way we can get more damage to vulnerable enemies based on our damage to cold, and all those non-physical damages are going to be increasing this. So we can essentially cap that out at 30%, which is going to be very nice for us. And then this is where I'm also throwing in Enchanter over here, so we can get a little bit more survivability, and we can also get this much closer to that 30%. So if I go ahead and take this out, see, we're going to drop down to 20 here. So that is a big damage boost for us right there. Otherwise, I'm going to be going into some vulnerable damage and DR from vulnerable. I'm just missing these breakpoints because of our boots. They have willpower, and I need them to have dexterity, but I would hit that breakpoint, and I would also hit this breakpoint over here on guarded if I had that dexterity. And from there, we can go ahead and move on over to the Burning Instinct board. This way we can throw the Destruction glyph up here so we can get to that increased crit damage. And then also we can get a DR from burning A lot of enemies are going to be burning with our flame shields and all that good stuff. And also we can grab a little bit more DR from elites and armor down here. But yeah, overall, that's the Paragon board that I've been running. I thought it's worked pretty well, and you can be extremely tanky. Overall, I found this build super fun to play, and it's been good for literally everything that I've tried to do in this game. There's really nothing it can't handle. And if you guys want to be doing some bossing stuff, you can actually just take off the Selig, by the way, and just throw on a damaging amulet. So mastery, defensive, anything like that, anything for the extra damage, you guys will be good to go over there. And you could fill it in with like damage while standing still. I don't have that on here right now, or any other sort of damaging aspect. Or if you want to have some more options to move around, you can. You can fit in the pieces and get a lot more damage on those bosses where you really do not need the survivability that the Selig offers. But yeah, once again, if you did enjoy my balls today, make sure you leave a thumbs up on the video to let me know. Also consider subscribing for more Diablo 4 content here coming very, very shortly. But thank you all for watching this far in the video. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next video. See ya.